We will get started. Hi, everybody. I'm Lauren Cohen. It's Thursday, November 17th, and 1 week from today is American Thanksgiving, which if you're in Canada, you have no idea what kind of a big deal this holiday is here. It's nothing like Thanksgiving in Canada. It is completely like, I don't know what you call it, but it pretty much changes the whole nature of the year, because you go into holiday mode once Thanksgiving comes. Everything changes. Everybody celebrates Thanksgiving, no matter what religion you are, which is very unusual in the States, because usually there's Jewish holidays and Christian holidays and all kinds of Muslim holidays, Islam holidays, whatever religion you are. Thanksgiving is generally one of the few holidays that is celebrated by everybody in the US, no matter what your background, including Canadians even. So actually, I'll tell you guys a funny story before I get started. So the first year that I was living in the US, on Good Friday, it was Good Friday, I didn't come to work. And, in Canada, you don't go to work on Good Friday, so I didn't know there was work. So they called me up and asked me if I was sick. And I'm like, what are you talking about? They said, well, why aren't you at work? I said, because it's Good Friday. They said, so? And I was like, oh, that's so weird. So I went to work on Good Friday. So there are things, everybody thinks that everything is exactly the same in the US, and it's not. Just Good Friday is a sheer example of that. So there you go. So anyway, today we are here to discuss achieving your American dream and how you can invest in the business or real estate options of your choice to achieve the life of your dreams in the US, just like I have done. Uh-oh, wait a minute, now it's not going. Okay. Okay. So here's our disclaimer, which we obviously have to share because I am a lawyer at the end of the day, and I want you to know that none of what we are sharing here is legal advice, nor should it be relied upon as such. If you want specific advice for your specific situation, you do need to set up a consultation with either our team or our team and I, and we will discuss your path and your situation and your circumstances. We are welcome to ask questions. We will do our very best to answer all of the questions in the chat as they come in, and or after I finish a particular section. And if your question does not get answered, again, you're more than welcome to set up a consultation with us. So during this masterclass, we will be discussing some key points about investing and immigrating across borders, specifically considering the current economic situation and why now is truly the perfect time to take action and achieve your American dream. And instead of seeing the snow above your head, you'll see this beautiful sky with palm trees, as I do every morning when I take my son to school, and all day long pretty much. So have your camera on, ask questions, as I mentioned, and take notes, because at the end of the day, by the way, we will be sharing the recording, but we will not be sharing the slides. So if you should take notes, and then you can always cross-reference them with the recording after. So who am I? So I'm known as the Canadian Whisperer. Why? Because I'm originally from Toronto, and I'm now here in South Florida. I grew up in the GTA, and originally we were in Willowdale, and then we moved to Thornhill. So I've always been kind of in the suburbs. And right before I moved to the US, I owned a property, which I wish I'd never sold, but we won't go there. I always say this, right downtown at King and Bathurst, King and Niagara, actually, a converted townhouse, which I wish I had not sold. It was a stacked townhouse, probably worth more than my house I just sold here in Florida, which was a full house. But anyway, that's besides the point. So I am a cross-border lawyer and cross-border expert. I'm a licensed realtor. I'm the chair of the International Investment Committee for EXP Commercial. I'm an immigration concierge and quarterback, which probably makes absolutely no sense to any of you, because what the heck does that mean? But we will talk about it. So even though I am a lawyer, we are not really providing just legal services. So if you're looking for just an immigration lawyer or something like that, it's probably not me. It's probably one of my colleagues, and we can refer you, but we are full service. So what that means is that you come to us to handle everything from A to Z, and walk you through the whole process, the complicated process, and make it much easier for you. I'm a best-selling author. I have 2 books, the first of which is called Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process. I think there's a picture of it on the next slide. And for those of you that haven't had a chance to take a look at it, it's a very helpful book to give you guidance on all of the different business immigration options that are available to you. I'm also a franchise broker, and I've been featured in multiple mediums internationally. I'm a global keynote speaker. I have literally spoken all over the world, and I am an activist and philanthropist. So I look forward to helping you guys to achieve your dreams too. Whoops, I guess I went too far, because here are pictures of my book. So the two books on the right are actually my publications. The far right was a bestseller. The second one, the middle one, is about franchises. I do have access to some sections of that book. If you're interested in franchises, we can share some of that with you. I also have a free download of the preface of Finding Your Silver Lining in the Business Immigration Process, which expands upon my story that I'll share with you shortly. The third book, Immigrant Hustle, I was featured in along with 49 other entrepreneurs. It was actually a Toronto-based guy who wrote the book and reached out to me as one of the entrepreneurs to be featured. I've been featured in a lot of other books as well, but this book happened to be really relevant, and I really enjoyed being a part of it and collaborating with the other immigrants. So it's kind of funny to think of myself as an immigrant, but I am. And so are most of the people on our team. I've been featured in all of these mediums, among others, and I love speaking globally, especially in Canada. So these are just some of the people that I have either created success stories with, helped along the way, or worked with in some capacity. On the far left is Jay and Corey Facette. Jay is a Calgary-based entrepreneur. He was one of my first full-service clients. And Jay was like, I hate paperwork. I don't want to ever look at this. I don't know, Lauren, what are you trying to tell me? He just wanted me to make everything as simple as possible because he's way too busy. He has a global joint venture empire, truly global. And he's really just made a huge impact on so many lives about creating models for joint venturing. And as a matter of fact, one of my team members comes from my relationship with Jay. So we have great rapport, and we originally met through a collaborative venue called CEO Space and immediately connected. Jill Lublin is a collaborator of mine. She is a public relations expert. Randy Miles is the chair of EXP. Jeff Greenberg will share a story about Jeff. He was one of my clients, well, he still is, and he's about to renew his E2 visa. Michael Gerber, if you don't know who Michael Gerber is, you should find out. Michael Gerber was kind of the original entrepreneur. He wrote the E-Myth. And then every single industry has had a book called E-Myth Revisited, the E-Myth for accountants, the E-Myth for lawyers, the E-Myth for realtors, the E-Myth for everything. What the heck is the E-Myth? It's kind of talking about how to delegate responsibly and make sure that you know what's going on in your business. Carolyn Graham, another success story. She got her visa investing in a tutoring franchise. She's had that about a year now, and lovely client. We also help her invest in real estate. She is from the Chatham, Cambridge area. Iman Agai from Vancouver, also a very significant influencer, client, friend, collaborator, just a great all-around guy. If you don't know Iman, you should. Mel Robbins, I think everybody probably knows her, and Mel endorsed my book, and I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to meet with her on several occasions. Larry Feldman is the founder of Subway, and he and I are good friends. We know each other from, just going to mute you, sorry. We know each other from various philanthropic endeavors, and if you guys could be so kind as to mute your microphones, I would appreciate it, because it gets distracting for everybody when we hear background noise. Thank you. Mike Wolf, one of the most successful real estate investors in Canada. He's known as the richest homeless man in Canada. Why? Because he is a nomad. He literally moves all over the world. The only time he stayed still was during COVID because he didn't have a choice. But he is born in Calgary and has, actually went to law school and owns more real estate than mostly anybody I know. Carolyn Gallardo, and he's also a client. Carolyn Gallardo is a client and friend and also a partner. We have a business called Strategic REI, which many of our clients choose to invest in as a path to use real estate as a way to get a visa. Carolyn and I met originally during COVID, and now she's stayed with me here in Florida twice, and she is one of my closest friends and collaborators. So these are just some of the success stories that I wanted to share with you. Here are there's a couple of testimonials that we'll share with you. Jeff, who I mentioned earlier, having a good immigration lawyer who truly gets it, understands the whole picture, listens to you, and can guide you through the process properly is huge. And it's very, very true, because way too many lawyers are just doing that legal work, and you need to have a bigger picture vision of what's going on, because there's business involved and there's investment involved and there's just a multitude of things. And when you're just dealing with an immigration lawyer or a business lawyer, oftentimes, and I'm not criticizing them, but oftentimes that's their niche and that's their wheelhouse and that's where it extends to, and you need something that's a little broader. Sabine was one of my first clients that transitioned from a non-immigrant visa to an immigrant visa. That's an E2 to an EB5. She bought originally one Le Macaron franchise and then ended up adding a second and I think a third unit to her original investment, and then qualified for a green card. Sabine was a wonderful client, French client, not from Canada. There you go. See, I do work with others. Cindy is actually in Israel. She is an immigration lawyer and business owner. I have done more cases with her than almost anybody, any other immigration lawyer per se. And we always have had success together, and Cindy's a good friend as well. Mike Wolf, I mentioned, and this is his testimonial about working with our team, that we really understand what we're doing and have helped him and his clients achieve their goals. And just a wonderful, wonderful all-around guy. For those of you that don't know Mike, if you're in the real estate space, you need to get to know him. So how can you work with us? Well, there are two ways. And I wanted to bring this up at the front end so that you know what you're dealing with, because we're not just offering like a widget. We're offering a very high-end, high-touch service that is not for everybody, but is for those that are fortunate enough to be able to have the opportunity to work with us, because it is an opportunity. And we have to vet you and do a qualification. We don't just take your money and run. That's not what we're about. We're not a numbers game. We're a very low quantity, high quality service provider. So we have a 3-phased program, which we'll develop or discuss in a little more detail further on. The first phase is finding the business, vetting the business, setting up the business, creating the structure, getting your bank account and your tax ID. The second phase is developing the business plan, which we have been doing for over 20 years. And was our core competency before we kind of migrated into this broader full service scope of work that we offer. And developing a visa business plan oriented to your business. So the business plan for a visa is not like the business plan that you're going to write to raise money, because the business plan for a visa maximizes employment. The return on investment is not necessarily as high as you might want to see if you were investing in a business, because they're investing in a visa so that you can develop your business. So that when I say they're investing, I'm talking about the immigration service that's approving the visa. Okay. And I say approving because we've never had a denial. So I'm not planning on starting anytime soon. And that's why we vet our clients so carefully. We want to make sure that you're ready and we're ready. Phase 3 is the visa preparation, which obviously is the most important phase of the program, because that's where the rubber hits the road. We take the business plan, we do a source of funds analysis. We have to show where all the money came from that's going into the visa, how that money is going to be applied. And, you know, if it's gifted, where did the gift come from? If you sold your house, you have to show proof of that. It's very, very important to show where every dollar comes from, because they want to make sure there's no money laundering. Obviously, in Canada, it's not as much of a problem, but, you know, they have to quantify every dollar. So after 12/15, this program will be $39,997. It is a full service program. And until December 15th, it is $35,500, which has been since January. But we will be increasing our prices, as I mentioned, in about, 2.5 weeks, give or take. So I can't believe it's almost the end of the year. So that's what it takes to work with us if you're investing to immigrate. So if you want a visa and you're investing. If you're just investing to set up a structure and create a real estate portfolio in the US, the fee is $9,500, which includes setting up your first 2 entities, strategic consulting and related services. It's a full service program. Again, cross-border tax guidance from a cross-border tax expert, not me. That's not me. initial registered agent fee, which is essential, and just collaborating and coordinating all of the moving parts to get your structure set up. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people, real estate investors, are very guilty of setting up the wrong structure. And then guess who gets your money? The CRA or the IRS. And that kind of defeats the purpose, right? Because why would you want to have double taxation? Not the goal. So we are here to prevent that from happening. Why you need to take action now? Well, I see this coming. I've heard that there's snow. I don't see it. I think yesterday or the day before, I was on a Toronto professional women networking thing, and they were all talking about the snow. And I was looking outside kind of like, oh, well, I don't really miss it. Then another client of mine whose testimonial you'll see at the end, she's in Montreal and she loves the winter. I don't know, but she's a very cool girl, except she loves the winter, okay? So she posts this thing with all the pictures of winter, and isn't it beautiful? And I go, enjoy it for me. I'll stay here in the sun and enjoy the palm trees. I'm good. I don't really need to see the winter anymore. I have a 12-year-old. He does, he's only seen the winter a couple of times, but hopefully when he is ready to fly on his own, I'll send him to Toronto for a few days in the winter without me, because I have zero interest in the snow or the cold or shoveling or the slush or the salt just not my thing. And I have an electric car, and I hear that they're not so great in the winter, so not my thing. But anyway, the climate does get worse every year. We know that we're dealing with global climate change and global warming and all of that, but global warming is not really helping in Canada. So winter is at your doorstep, and now is the time to act. The US market remains advantageous for Canadians to invest now, and the rates are still manageable. So investing now is really the most viable option for you. Inflation will continue to increase each year, and your dollars will be worth less, especially Canadian dollars, when compared to US dollars or other currencies. Laws are constantly changing, and visa opportunities will adjust and to reflect this, and you could be shut out because they could set up quotas, they could invoke different things that will impact your ability to get a visa. They could add minimum investment thresholds, which they don't have right now. The terminology is a substantial investment in a non-marginal business, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But that's the standard non-immigrant E2 visa, which is available to Canadians. So, that could change, and we don't know. It's completely at the discretion of the government. As I mentioned, the price of the US dollar will continue to go up, especially as compared to the Canadian dollar. I will tell you that when I sold that house in King and Niagara and transferred or converted my money to buy my first house here in Florida, I paid 60 cents on the dollar. It was like an all-time low. And I did it, and I bit the bullet, and I still kick myself about a lot of that, but it happened. So no matter what, you're not going to be facing that again. That was a really bad conversion rate. But they aren't so great now. And the more people are like, well, let's wait, the Canadian dollar is going to get better. Well, maybe it will get better, but who knows? And so we're not ready to take that risk or face the music. So better to actually do it while you can. Okay. So allow me to share my story. I wanted to pursue my American dream. I was living in Canada and had a comfortable life other than the snow, but I wanted more. I used to drive to York University and Osgoode Hall Law School and literally go an hour early, so I would not have to walk so far. I would just sit in the winter, I would sit near the top of the parking lot and wait. Or when I would go to my car, I would turn the car on half an hour before, and I would just sit there and wait for the snow to start melting, because I couldn't deal with the snow, what are they called? Scrapers. I can't even remember. See, it's been so long, I blocked it out of my memory. I wanted to live my best life away from the snow and the long, cold winters and all of the rules that you struggled with, especially over COVID. And I understand that they're about to have a mask mandate again. So, we don't know when that's going to happen. Take advantage of your opportunities now. I wanted to live in the sunshine all year round. I wanted to face a more secure future. I wanted to access a better economy with improved opportunities, and I wanted to have a greater impact on others. I dreamed of immigrating to the US in pursuit of personal and professional happiness, freedom, and success. So soon after earning my law degree from Osgood, I realized that I wanted to explore opportunities south of the border, and I was determined to achieve my goals despite the painstakingly long and taxing journey I knew I would face. And remember, at this point, I was not in the immigration space at all. I was actually very clueless, as you will soon discover. And you know what happens to anyone. So my first frustrating experience was in 1997 when CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, refused to let me enter the country. I was like in that movie Green Card. I had no status. So I was in purgatory, and they sent me to the secondary, and I was there with all these, I don't know, not so lovely people that were denied entry for various reasons, and they weren't letting me in because I didn't have status. Now, this is before 9/11, so I was able to get my visa turned around. It was in process, and I got it turned around within 24 hours. That would never happen now. It's just not possible because they don't have those options. You can't just call, you can't just push. I was pushy, a little persistent, I got it done. Nowadays, it doesn't happen like that. The next bump occurred after the approval of my H-1B visa, and had I not experienced this, I doubt I would have ended up in the field of immigration law, but it was a big deal. What is it? Well, I recently married a fellow Canadian who was also in the process of adjusting his immigrant status, or was he? I was shocked to find myself being escorted to a holding room once again on the return trip from our honeymoon to Thailand. From there, my then new husband was detained by US CBP, expeditiously removed, put in immigration jail, and subsequently deported back to Canada. And I was just like, what? And they sent me back to Florida with all the luggage. And it was, every time I think about it, I just picture what I went through, and it was definitely not fun. So I lost precious money, time, and peace in the process. Now, how did I overcome that? Well, let's see, I don't remember. Okay, so the key is that I was in the process of actually getting my green card at the time, and I had to go to Montreal rather than getting processed within the US because of my then husband, who was not allowed in the US. So I went to Montreal with him, went to the interview, and they said, no, he's not admissible. There's not a chance that you're going to be able to bring him into the country. And, that's it. We're done. And here's your green card, and he's getting nothing. Well, needless to say, that was not the only reason that I ended up divorcing him. But certainly it was not the way to start a marriage, right? And I got my green card, and he actually now lives in Israel. So there you go. He was barred from entry as well, not due to any fault of my own. So I found a way, and I will do the same for you. So where am I now? As I mentioned, I live in sunny South Florida. I have a 7-figure business. I have my assets secured, and I have achieved location and financial freedom. So I'll give you an example of what that means. I was just in Israel for 2 weeks, and thank God for my team, but we really didn't miss a beat. And as a matter of fact, there were 2 days when I was in Israel that I was on consults with people here. That's the beauty of setting up a location friendly or location free, a business with location freedom. And that's what I've done. I can be in Toronto, I can be in Israel, I can be on a cruise, or I can be here at my desk. You're here because you're sick and tired of limited opportunities for your family, overreaching restrictions like maybe this mask mandate, giving away your money due to high taxes and weak currency, financial losses, challenges, and so on, climatic challenges, which we know exist and are coming soon, if not already. So why? What's your why? Tell us in the chat. What is your goal? Do you want a visa? Are you looking for just to invest? Can you tell us a little bit about who you are so we get a feel for how we can serve you best? I'm going to pause for just a moment and wait for you guys to hopefully type something in the chat so we can have some engagement and know exactly what to do. Nobody's engaging? Come on, this is usually when we get everybody to say something. If you want a visa, not a visa, you want to invest.
We have some people.
Pardon me?
Irene is saying visa and invest.
Okay, cool.
Ravi is saying I'm looking for financial freedom by investing in real estate. Rhonda is saying invest in the US from Canada. Debbie says have my money go farther. And Hariwan, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. He's saying to invest.
Okay, cool. So we've got a nice hybrid. Toward the end of the presentation, we'll be talking about specifically investing only, not only investing to immigrate. So if you stay for toward the end, we will have a discussion about real estate investing specifically and how to do that from Canada, from wherever. Again, it's still a full service program that we offer. And as a realtor, I have partners literally all over the country. I just made an introduction to one of our clients who wants to invest in Scottsdale, Arizona. I have a wonderful partner in Scottsdale who actually happens to have lived in Winnipeg for a few years, and Kelowna for that matter. So the other day when I made the intro, she said, I just moved from Kelowna a few weeks ago, and she forgot to say a few weeks, 16 years ago or something like that. I'm like, you just moved? What? It was kind of funny. Anyway, it's just to show you a play on words. So that's great. I'm glad we have a nice hybrid. So you don't have to struggle and suffer through the winter anymore. I certainly wouldn't want to. Wouldn't you want to achieve all of this too? That's my son. He just turned 12. That's our pup. Well, these are our two pups on the bottom left corner. Obviously, you know what this is, Disney World, Epcot. This is just a street near the beach in Fort Lauderdale, and this is the beautiful skyscape in the Miami area. Your current reality, you're facing economic challenges, climatic challenges, and taxes, as I mentioned. These are just some articles to reinforce what I'm talking about here. Canadian dollar hitting a 2-year low. Weather forecast not positive. And again, the mask mandate is about to come back into play, most likely. And I heard that yesterday on CBC. Lower taxes are just across the border. I think right now in Ontario, it's a recommendation that you wear a mask because of all the respiratory issues, but soon it unfortunately may well be a mandate again. So you are here because you want something more. And we want to show you how to access more. It's check-in time. Please type in the chat in one word how you feel right now. I guess we really want you to be engaged in this discussion. So if you would share something about how you're feeling, are you excited? Are you nervous? I just came back from Israel, and one of the things that we learned was about courage. And what's the opposite of courage? Who knows what is the opposite of courage? Anybody? Is it fear? Or is it comfort? Which do you think? Okay, well, I will answer that apparently. It's comfort, because facing fear doesn't necessarily mean that you're courageous. And fear is not necessarily the opposite of courage, but comfort is. Comfort is just staying where you are. And if you want to be where you are a year from now or 6 months from now, rather than taking action and taking advantage of your opportunities and starting this process, then you're going to end up being in that same place. And that's a fearful place to be. So if you're really ready to take the next step, you know why now is the best time to act. You have a clear idea of the options available to you, and you'll access a special opportunity that we never offered before on this Zoom. So why do you want or need a visa? Now, there's a difference. Some people need a visa because they need to be able to run their business that they're already developing. They need to be able to go back and forth. They need to access it for their kids or whatever. Wanting a visa is because you want to live in the US, or you want to be in the US, or you want to be able to go back and forth across the border without any restrictions. So there's a difference between need and want. Why do you want or need a visa? You want to obtain a social security number so you can live and work in the US, or maybe not, just to access the social security number so you can build credit and access financing. to access the freedom to go back and forth freely across the border. You'll be able to send your kids to school and your spouse will be able to work. Excuse me. You'll be able to build your business and invest freely in the US. You'll have the freedom to establish strategic relationships all over the country and to visit them freely. You'll avoid paying high taxes. Now, again, I'm not the tax expert, but having a visa definitely helps you avoid paying high taxes and avoid double taxation. You'll potentially build a business to access an eventual green card, if that's your goal, and you'll qualify for the 1031 exchange. Does anybody know what a 1031 exchange is? Any real estate investor out there that knows what a 1031 is? Okay, 1031 is something that's very unique to the US. It's a really great way to defer capital gains. It's available to anybody that's a real estate investor in the US that qualifies based on transferring a like-in-kind investment from one property to another, identifying the new property within 90 days and closing, within 45 days and closing within 180 days or 6 months, okay? Now, qualifying in the US and being able to take advantage of it here doesn't necessarily mean that you can take that back to Canada. So unless you have a visa, you're not going to be able to benefit from the 1031 exchange, which is huge for real estate investors because it allows you to just keep deferring capital gains, okay? But without a visa, you're going to take that money back to Canada and they're going to discount the whole capital gains deferral. So that's why. It's a very big opportunity for Canadians investing in US real estate. So investing across borders will co-create a personalized plan with you, not us creating it for you. We have to create it with you because you are ultimately the one that's going to go for the interview and run the business. So it has to be you. You have to buy in with us and be co-invested, okay? Co-create, co-invest, and so on. Here are just some of your main business visa options, which, as I mentioned, are covered in my book. The middle ones, E2 and E1, are only available by treaty. The E1 is a trader visa, meaning that you're trading a substantial amount with your home country. Actually, Jay Facette, one of the first gentlemen that I mentioned who I helped achieve a visa, he does a lot of trade back and forth because he's running trade shows and doing a lot of business in the US. So he got an E1 visa because of the amount of trade. Substantiality is a discretionary term and it's subject to interpretation. However, for the most part, substantial investment or substantial trade is defined as at least 100,000. Okay, it's not like a hard and fast rule, but that's the general consensus. E2 is the most common and coveted visa, which we'll talk about in a minute. That's the one that we do. Probably 3 out of every 4 of our clients does an E2 application. And E2 is based on investment. Again, it's a non-immigrant visa available for up to 5 years, renewable indefinitely, and available to Canadians and people from many countries that do have treaties. L1 is for those that have a business in Canada with a substantial amount of employees, at least 8, and you're setting up a similar org chart in the US with common ownership. And then the L1, the beauty of an L1 is that it is not country specific. You can apply from anywhere, and it does lead to a green card, whereas neither the E1 or the E2 lead directly to a green card. But we always find options. EB1A and EB1A is based on extraordinary ability, as is O1, and EB1C is a multinational executive or manager. So there are sometimes ways to get an E2 or E1 applicant into the EB1C path to a green card. EB5 is a green card through investment. The amounts actually are incorrect on here. The amount now is currently a minimum of 800,000. Raymond, make a note that I need to change this, please. 800,000 and 1.05 million. That went up in, I think, April. And you can be from any country, and you do get a green card in correlation to your investment. And your investment has to also correlate to the creation of at least 10 new full-time permanent jobs. Much more complicated than I'm sharing with you here, but suffice it to say that this is the only way to passively access the green card. Okay. This is the most coveted visa, the E2 visa. I actually call it the coveted visa in my book. And these are the left side of this slide, which is available as a download. It talks about the pre-visa steps, what needs to happen so that you can apply. And the right side is about the actual application process, whether you do it through consular processing, which is the best way, I think, because it gives you a 5-year non-restricted visa. Whereas if you do a change of status, which some of our clients do, especially those that come to the US and don't want to go back, that's the only way to do it within the US. It's because you change your status within the US, but you cannot leave the country. So as soon as you set foot outside of the country, even on a cruise, you lose your status. So the only reason you would generally do that, if you are not planning to just stay in the US, is if you get a change of status, it's a faster way to get a visa. And then you would do that as you're waiting for your interview at the consulate, because sometimes there are delays. However, I will say that we have been successful every single time that we have applied for an expedited interview. There's no guarantee, but generally speaking, as long as you have a good reason to expedite your interview, you will receive an expedited interview. And you have to be persistent too. So this is, again, a little bit more about our 3-phase program. Phase 1 is selecting and setting up your US business. Phase 2 is developing your business plan. And phase 3 is crafting your US visa petition. Now, this is really for E2 applicants, which is the treaty investor visa, but it can be equally applied to an E1 applicant and an L1 applicant. So we're still applying a 3-phase program. There might be some modifications in the pricing because an L1 is a little more expensive. However, generally speaking, you're looking at around the $40,000 mark. This is more detail about phase 1, where we go through. It's all covered on our full service website, which we will share with you. We really get into the nitty-gritty and help you in a very, very in-depth way. We become your partner in the whole process, because your outcome, your successful outcome, is our successful outcome. So we are very vested and invested in your success. Phase 2 is the business plan phase, mainly, where we look at the all of the elements of the business plan and preparing the business plan for you. And phase 3 is actually this. These phases are a little bit off, Victoria, so we'll have to work on this. So phase 3 is the actual visa application. I apologize. This is a little, I didn't pay enough attention to these phases. This is a new slide. But phase 3 is the actual application, the petition, the submission, waiting for the interview, preparing you for the interview, and then getting you the visa. 10 steps to immigrate through real estate or investment is our signature program. We will share a slide that goes through these 10 steps, and it, as I mentioned, it can be for real estate or investment, although we really developed it because so many people didn't realize that there is a path to use real estate to get a visa. We also created Strategic REI. A colleague of mine and I partnered on this. It's by invitation only for real estate investors that want to use their real estate portfolio and build a portfolio that will allow you to access a visa. We walk you through everything. It's a business in a box. We help you access off-market deals and wholesale deals. And then we help you with your initial setup, with your tech, with your structure, and with your initial employee. So it's a full service. It's almost like an unfranchise, helping real estate investors specifically to build a custom business. No real estate investing, or any other business for that matter, can be passive. In order to qualify for a visa, you have to be actively involved in managing or directing the business, with some modifications. And your investment in an e-visa, whether it be an E1 or an E2, can be used as part of your EB5 investment, the $800,000 that I mentioned earlier. This is the slide that talks about the 10 steps to immigrate through real estate, or again, through investment. And again, this is available as a download if you don't already have it. Recommended investment, number of doors, cross-border tax guidance, asset protection, ideal structure, professional consulting, financing, very important, but you don't want to overfinance, because then you will marginalize your business plan, your legal guidance and filing of the petition. And last but not least is visa success, because after you get the visa, you have to then make sure that you can keep the visa, renew the visa, or turn the visa into a different type of a visa or permanent resident green card. Okay. These next slides just go through these 10 steps in more detail. The recommended investment, I would say right now you're looking at $250 to $300 out of pocket to invest in real estate, and you're going to need more than 1 or 2 or 3 units, and that's why we created Strategic REI. So you can't just buy 1 or 2 Airbnbs. That's not going to work because it's still considered passive. So our superpower is turning that passive real estate investor into an active real estate business owner so that you can qualify for a visa. And sometimes with our real estate investors that just want to invest in real estate, we try to set up the structure ahead of time, just in case you eventually want to apply for a visa. Okay, protecting your assets is super important. Ideal structure is part of that, as is your cross-border tax guidance. Why is ideal structure important? Because not only are you avoiding double taxation, but you're protecting yourself from legal liability by having the right structure in place. Again, this is a little more about legal protection, asset protection involving estate planning, proper setup, protecting your business, and professional consulting, making sure that every step of the way you have professionals that are guiding you and making sure that what you're doing is appropriate for what you need and going to accomplish your goals. Financing, as I mentioned, we have great financing options available for our clients, non-resident aliens, foreign investors, and so on. You might have to put a little bit more down on a property or a business, but at the end of the day, you can access some financing. And then filing the visa, of course. To qualify, real estate investments or businesses should involve the BRRRR method, which those of you that are real estate investors know what that is: buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, managing multiple rental and or commercial properties on an ongoing basis, Airbnb models, managing multifamily, which is 5 or more units, or managing multiple multifamily, 2, 3, or duplex, triplex, fourplex, even mobile home parks, and self-storage can also work. SREI, strategic real estate investing, is the best customized option because we built it to meet visa requirements. And these should all be ongoing year-round businesses, not just seasonal, unless you have something that you're managing in the off-season. So here are some other investing options. Your typical options are real estate, franchises, buying a business, or expanding your existing business. Who thinks a franchise route is the best option? Well, probably a lot of you don't really even know what the franchise route involves. Some franchise advantages in the foreign investor setting include that they're turnkey, that they have ongoing systems, training, marketing, and support, that many franchise brands offer E2 visa contingencies, which we love because that way your franchise fee is invested in escrow until you get the visa. And it's a potentially lucrative and saleable asset. In my 2018 book, I noted that franchises offer a unique investment opportunity for foreign nationals that allow them to acquire a ready-made turnkey business with most systems already developed and ready to use. Yet you can operate the franchise business as your own so that a true sense of ownership is created. I happen to like franchises. Consider a franchise. Franchising is a business method that involves the licensing of trademarks and repeatable methods of doing business. If you ever saw the movie The Founder with Ray Kroc about McDonald's, that's the epitome of the franchise, because McDonald's was truly, it wasn't actually the first franchise. Believe it or not, Singer Sewing Machines was the first franchise. And then Coca-Cola did a distribution model that was similar to a franchise. It's all covered in my Burning Desire to Succeed book. That's why I know this stuff. But McDonald's was definitely the most famous and life-changing story. It changed the nature of the franchise industry and made franchises what they are today. What is a franchise? Well, a franchise is brand recognition, marketing support, business support. I'm sorry, that's what the franchise offers. I apologize. Just a moment. Something is wrong with my screen here. A franchise is easily understood by USCIS Immigration Service, has been a very successful, proven business historically. and has a proven track record of success. As I mentioned, it's a repeatable business model. And if you're ready to take the plunge prior to getting your visa, it can also serve as a way to make money while you're waiting for your visa. So I have some people that are buying franchises. I have one now that's just invested in also a tutoring business, and they're running it and waiting for their visa. So this way they're actually running it from Canada, waiting for their visa to be approved. And that's all cool. Buying an existing business. Now, there are some additional challenges attached to buying an existing business, because you have to then do due diligence because you're buying somebody else's problems. So that becomes another element of what you need to consider when you're looking at that as an option. And finding an existing business that might qualify for a visa is also a little bit more challenging, but not impossible. And we have much success with this model as well. Expanding your current business. Now, obviously, that's only if you have a business that you can possibly expand or that makes sense to bring south of the border, for example. And investing in real estate. So who wants to invest in real estate? Almost everybody wants to, even if you're not already. I'd love to know how many of you actually already invest in real estate, because it's probably quite a number of you, chances are. So this part is for those that only want to invest and aren't really interested in a visa. However, I have had more than one time when somebody starts saying, I want to invest in real estate, I don't want a visa. And then after a few weeks or a few months, they're like, well, maybe I need the visa because it gives me the freedom to go back and forth, to see my properties, to access credit because I get a Social Security and a lot of other advantages, and the 1031, of course. So it's important to set up the right structure no matter what to avoid double taxation, and to ensure that you have the right legal protection to avoid liability for yourself and your family. Everyone is permitted to invest in U.S. real estate, but it's not a one-size-fits-all model. You need to have an approach that's custom tailored to your situation. So this next slide, not the next slide, I apologize, this one here, is available as a download, 10 steps to successful U.S. real estate investing. Now, these 10, some of them may be morphed into others, but all of them are part and parcel of a successful U.S. real estate investment process, okay? And what I mean by that is, for example, number 3, secure a virtual or other U.S. address and registered agent. That is going to fall within number 5, setting up your entities if you're working with us, because we're going to get you that registered agent as part of the process, okay? So you do need a cross-border lawyer and a cross-border tax advisor. You need to choose which state you want to invest in, and we can help you with that, but we're not going to tell you. We have to work with you to figure it out, because at the end of the day, again, they're your investments, it's your money, and you're managing them. Consult with realtors and lawyers in the chosen states. Obtaining a tax ID is essential. That is an employer identification number. You cannot do business in the US without that, and you cannot open a bank account without that. That is part of the service that we offer. We don't get them for you, but we give you all of the tools that you need so that you can apply. And it's very important in number 5, I mentioned, and number 8, I mentioned that you need to set up the right entities, but just setting up an entity does not mean that you're operating. You need the right documents, an operating agreement, a shareholders agreement, other agreements that might be needed, corporate resolutions, banking documents. It's not just setting up an entity. That's simple. It's all of the supporting documents that are needed to make sure that you're running the business properly. You need proper corporate record book and so on. And then you'll need to secure appropriate financing and work with licensed realtors. Again, we can refer you to realtors all over the country, and start your investing career here in the US if you haven't already. And if you have, maybe you want to correct some of it. We've had that happen more than once, where we've taken existing structures apart and put them back together again. So investing in real estate, as I mentioned, it's a $9,500 fee, and these are all of the items that are included in it. Strategic consulting, cross-border tax guidance, US entity formation. 2 entities are included in this package. Initial registered agent fee, and you do have access to discounted fee for service options as well. So Raymond, make a note that we want to switch these 2 slides around, please. Why would you choose to only invest? Well, maybe you don't want to move to or do business in the US full time or even more than part time, but you do want to invest and need guidance, so you set up the right structure. You want to avoid double taxation, potential legal liability, and other pitfalls while paving a smooth path to your successful US investment portfolio. Or you want to access a visa and possibly a green card in the future, but want to set yourself up for success now. So explore the options that make the most sense for you and your particular situation by working with us. So here's the 10 steps broken down, which I don't think we need to go through in great detail. But again, these are important. Defining your territory. Not everybody wants to invest in Florida. Our main target states so far for Canadians are Florida, Texas, Arizona, North Carolina, Georgia, Ohio, and Michigan. Some other states as well to a lesser degree, but those are the prime ones that most Canadians invest in. Oh, and New York, I forgot. Okay, and you want to make sure that you do all of these things or you're going to end up paying the price dearly. And professional realtors are essential. So let's recap. How can you do it? Real estate investing. So how many would like to do it through real estate investing? Let's get a show of yeses or hands or something like that. One. Usually we have more than half of the group that wants to do
We have a
real
lot of
estate.
people. Lauren, they're saying in the
Cool.
chat, Ravi,
All right, great.
one,
I don't know why
Debbie.
I'm not seeing in the chat, but anyway, thank you.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
that's great. So real estate investing is a great option. Now, by the way, this option with a franchise can really complement real estate investing because we have some franchises that are very good real estate investing complements. Now, the advantage of not using your real estate investments as the basis for the visa is that you can then buy and sell without any restriction. If you're using your real estate investment portfolio as the basis for your visa, you have to report any material changes. If you're using a franchise that's complementing your real estate investing, then you can buy and sell the real estate because it's not part of the visa process. So I don't know if that makes perfect sense to you, but the franchise is the business that you're using as the lead for the visa. So unless you sell the franchise, you don't have a reporting requirement. Whereas if you sell a piece of real estate that's a part of the portfolio, you may, depending on if it's material, and we'll help you decide that. Okay, so you've got the franchise option, lots of great franchises, property management companies. I love pet franchises. Maid companies are good ones for real estate investors. Design companies, all kinds of them. UPS stores, for example, that's a great franchise to get a visa with. You name it, there's franchises in literally every industry. Buying an existing business, we talked a little about this as one of the options. Or bringing your business to the US, which is great. And that way you can also help pave a path to a green card. Now, just because you do an E2 and set up a new business does not mean that you cannot get a green card using your Canadian business if you maintain it. That's very complicated, but it is available. So there are paths that are available to you as a treaty investor or treaty trader visa holder. It's just about being creative. So imagine what your life could be like. Type in the chat ready if you're ready to take that next step with us. We would love it. I cannot see the chat at all. It's very strange. Usually I see things happening there.
Yeah, I see it, Lauren. People are having a lot of questions, which we're going to get to.
Okay. Maybe we should pause for a minute so we can get to some of the questions. And let's do that. Okay.
So Rhonda's asking, are lawyer filing fees included in the 9,500?
No filing fees are included in the 9,500. In the 9,500 is for real estate investing. So the filing fees are very, very nominal for the most part. You're looking at well under $1,000, if that, because we don't know which state you're going to invest in. So we don't include filing fees as a result. So like in Florida, it's $125 for an LLC and $1,000 for an limited partnership. However, what we usually do is set up a limited partnership, let's say in Virginia, which is like $125. And that way you're saving yourself that, $875. So we find ways to make it as cost effective as possible.
Someone's asked before, how long does each phase last? Is there a limit, 6 months, 12 months?
Thank you. That's a great question. So we'd like to get everything done within 6 months. Phase 1 is a 3-month limit. If there's a reason that if something happens, like I have a client right now that has chosen their business and is ready to go forward, but now they're waiting on some financing from closing their home. So I extended the term. It's not a big deal. It just depends, as long as you're not just ignoring us and not trying your best, or if there's a reason that something happens and we have to extend the time, we do. We implement that time frame so that we aren't just left with people that are just kind of sitting on the fence waiting, okay? Because we want to move forward as much as you. I'm going to stop sharing so I can actually see some people in the chat.
Sure. Does the visa give you options for investment, capital gains, or only make sense if you're going to live in the US?
No, of course. If you have a visa, then you can access the same options as whether you live in the US or not, you can access the same options depending on your taxpayer status. So yes.
I think they're asking about why should I get a visa if I'm not looking to live there? Like, what are some of the benefits?
Right. Well, we talked about those benefits that, it's back and forth. It's freedom to access. It's getting your Social Security. It's building your credit. Many of our clients, I would say 20% of our clients don't move to the US. They just want the freedom to go back and forth and have that insurance policy in your pocket. So if you do decide to move, then you can. So that's really what it's about, and having access to all of the benefits of being a visa holder.
Right. What is the difference between an E1 and an E2?
So an E1 is based on trade and an E2 is based on investment. So trade is between Canada, let's say, and the US, back and forth. So if you have a company that is selling products, let's say back and forth to the US, or services, doesn't have to be product, and you can prove that you have a substantial amount of trade around 100,000, then you can potentially qualify for an E1. Now, we don't make those decisions until our onboarding call. And sometimes we don't even make them at the onboarding call because things come up as we move through the process, and we may learn things about you that say, oh, like with Jay, this was an example. We were going to do an E2, and then we realized he could qualify for an E1. So we did an E1 for him. That same thing comes when it comes to spouses. So some spouses will be like, well, which one of us shall apply? Well, we don't really need to know that until we're writing the business plan, because it's only in the business plan that we have to focus on the principal applicant's qualifications. So it really depends on how you want to structure it, because the spouse could potentially get a real estate license and sell real estate, or if he or she desires. So it just, we can play with that a little bit to manipulate the situation.
Yeah. Would purchasing an online business be acceptable? For example, Amazon FBA or an e-commerce site?
It's very possible. You don't have to have a physical presence necessarily, but you do have to show a story about why you need boots on the ground here in the US. So I've worked with many online businesses, and there is a way to structure that so that it can qualify for a visa. So yes, it's possible for sure.
Okay. Rhonda had a follow-up questions about the 9,500 program that we have. She's asking if lawyer fees.
Yes, that's all included. All the professional fees are included in that. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Irene wants to know if she can book an onboarding call before.
No onboarding call, but what we will do is we will give you a link in just a moment when I get back to the slide, so that you can book a call with our team or a call with me to talk about your options. But we don't decide those options until after your onboarding call, which is extensive. Okay.
Right. And one more, how does Ravi wants to know, or Ravi, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. How can one invest in real estate and get an E2 visa?
By joining us with Strategic REI. However, Strategic REI is by invitation only. So what we would do is at our onboarding call, we would determine some issues, like in terms of like your background. Have you already invested in real estate? How extensively? What are you planning to do here in the US? What is your budget? And then we determine if you qualify, and we set up a call with my partner, Carolyn, to discuss the Strategic REI initiative. So yes, there is a way. As I mentioned, our signature program is how to immigrate through real estate. So if it's all about having the capital and having the wherewithal and having the business model. And that's why we developed Strategic REI. When you buy 5 units or more and hire a property management company, no, you cannot hire a property management company and get an E2, because the key, well, you can as long as you hire enough other people, but where are you going to need those people? So one of your hires should be a property manager, because in order to get an E2, you do need to hire people. Okay. So there is a way. We have some very creative ways. If you hire a property management company, let's say, you may then hire, let's say, a janitor or somebody, a logistics person, or 5 units is going to be a little challenging because that's not substantial enough necessarily. And I have a feeling for the most part that the ROI is not going to be high enough to qualify for an E2, because it could be a marginal business. If it's marginal, you're not going to apply for an E2 unless you're doing like Burr and doing a lot of rehabs and doing some, there are different business models. Some people want to do wholesaling. So there is a way, even though lawyers say there's not, there is a way to use wholesaling as a path to a visa. And it's just all about volume. I have one client, you guys may know of him. His name is Glenn Sutherland, very, very active real estate investor. He does 40 units a year. So originally his lawyer said, that's not going to work. We can't use real estate. And I said, yeah, you can, because you're doing volume. You're doing a business. The key is we have to differentiate between a passive investor and an active business owner. And to qualify, you need to be the latter. You need to be an active real estate business owner, not a passive real estate investor. Okay. So we find that sweet secret sauce to make it work.
I think we should continue.
Go back to the slides. Yes, ma'am.
Yep. If anybody has more questions, just feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll go at the end. We'll go back to try to answer as many of them.
Oops. Okay. All right. So you can do it alone, or you can do it with our help. And if you try to do it alone, you're going to end up banging your head against the wall, frustrated with paperwork, wasting money, a lot of time, and lacking options. Poor structure can lead to double taxation, legal liability, inadequate protection, missing information, compromised access, and improper reporting, and more. If you don't have the right strategy, taking into account skills, education, desires, your business, current business, investments, budget, family status, and vaccination, which is still a factor, especially for green cards, then you're going to suffer and struggle. Not being careful when it comes to hiring the right professionals, setting up the right business structure, vetting an existing business, the right location, analysis and selection of the right investments, and choosing the right business to qualify for a visa. All of these are things that can happen when you don't do it the right way. What's the worst that can happen? Your investment can be at risk. Your visa could be denied. You may, as my ex-husband was, be deported or removed. You may lose your business, be unable to run your business, be unable to visit your investments or properties, lose out on potential deals, miss out on relationships, and have limited options for credit or financing. That's why you need to do your due diligence throughout the process, hopefully with our guidance. Potential issues also are changing laws, which could mean that the EB-5 investment threshold could be raised further than the $800,000 it currently is. Requirements for E2 or changes to other non-immigrant visas could happen. They could set up quotas. They could set up mandated minimum investment amounts. We have no idea. We just wait and sit and wait, and it could happen at any time without notice. With our help, you'll access the results that you want with a personalized plan designed to achieve your dreams. Truly. A couple more testimonials. Paul Roblin, President, Southern States Soccer. We're working with eCounsel Global. That's our company name, Investing Cross Borders, powered by eCounsel Global, was painless. They were flexible, diligent, and responsive. The end product was excellent, and we would recommend them highly. Dan Shields, who happens to be originally from Toronto, he lives in New York City, the New York City area, actually in New Jersey. Thanks to the efforts of eCounsel Global, we received exemplar approval, which means without question, from USCIS for our Spam South project in the New York City area without a single request for evidence. Cesar Petrucci from Newmarket, Ontario. We had a lot of ups and downs before we met Lauren, We had worked with other immigration lawyers and the process was very long and stalled out so many times. When we met Lauren, she took us by the hand and guided us. That's really the truth. That's what we do. It's a handheld process. I'm so grateful to Lauren and her team. Caesar bought a property management franchise and has just set it up and moved to Florida, and he will be closing on a home that we found for him in a really amazing community called Westlake in it's near Wellington, Florida. And he'll be closing, I think, in March of next year. It's beautiful. Adele Gigiosa, who is a real estate investor, as we get ready to close, and now they've actually closed on their first 2 US properties, we can't help but think of you. You are key in getting us here. The expression, it takes a village, is true in many areas of life. And by the way, Adele is the one that loves the winter. Okay, just saying. You and your team were our village, taking care of us every step of the way, making sure that everyone was executing their tasks on time and providing us top quality service. You brought all the pieces of the complex puzzle together without missing a beat. So what is your next step? Book your $97 strategy call with our team of experts today. We have raised your awareness of the risks of doing this by yourself. So your next step is to get the right help and tools in your hands by setting up a strategy call with our team. Book your call today by clicking this link. I hope it works. Otherwise, I know my team is going to be putting it in the chat. It's the best $97 that you'll spend. And if you want to set up a call with me, it is $397. But I recommend speaking with the team first. And if you need to speak with me, then I will actually credit you the $97 toward a call with me after speaking with the team. This is for you if you have questions about the planning process. Oh, by the way, that was the once in a lifetime offer that you get the $97 credit if you need to set up a call with me after the team and you aren't ready to act. This is for you if you have questions about the planning process. You are seriously considering investing and are immigrating to the US. You are looking for opportunities. You want more freedom. You want to work with professionals who will guide you every step of the way. And you want more clarity about your specific situation. What's the catch? Well, the catch is that we do hand select our clients. We can't work with everybody because we are a very, very high touch, high service level company. So we need to make sure there's a fit on both sides. So just because you set up a call and want to work with us doesn't mean that we guarantee that you're going to be able to. Hopefully there'll be a fit. And if not, we'll definitely refer you to somebody that can help you. Oops, sorry. How did they start their journey? With one simple step, a consult. What are you waiting for? Take advantage of the opportunity now while there's still a chance, because let me tell you, it's November 17th. When the first blizzard happens in Toronto, we're going to be shut down because we're not going to be able to take on all the clients. That's what happened last year. On January 8th, we had 108 inquiries in one day. I created a bot. AskLaurenESQ.com for those of you that want to check it out. Raymond, maybe you could put that in the chat, AskLaurenESQ.com, because we had so many inquiries following that blizzard that we just couldn't keep up. So we created this bot to be able to respond to them. The same thing is going to happen this year, I guarantee it. So don't wait until it's too late. This is how to reach us. Our toll-free number, our email, our website, and of course our consultation link. And we thank you. I'm going to leave this up for a moment and answer questions, which hopefully Mary can help me with again.
Sure. So someone's asking, is there a minimum amount? I think they maybe, I know you mentioned it, but maybe you want to go a little bit.
Yeah, so then I'll repeat what I stated before. There is no specific minimum for an E2. It's a substantial investment in a non-marginal business. Now, why do I do this? Because it's subject to interpretation. Generally, the guideline is $100,000, give or take. It really depends on the business. So if you're investing in a service business, it's going to be less than you're investing in a, let's say, massage envy or a massage business. Or if you're investing in a manufacturing business, you're going to need significantly more because it's relative to what the business needs. Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any other questions? Because I don't see any more on the chat.
There is a payment plan. It's 3 phases. So phase 1 is 50% and phases 2 and 3 are 25% each. So it does get broken down into those 3 phases. So yeah, I'm going to stop the recording now.